So this is why I love TikTok and my algorithm specifically. So I run up on a video where sis is talking about what having Saturn in your 11th house means. And just from the description, I'm like, I already know. And then she's like, and I'm a Taurus sun sign. And I'm like, yeah, I already know. So I go to my chart to confirm, and Saturn is dead in the 11th house. Then I scroll up a couple more times and run across another video where sis is describing the ramifications of having Saturn in retrograde in your chart. So as she's describing it, I'm like, I already know that this is my chart, but I don't even know at this moment what Saturn retrograde in the chart means because I'm not even thinking about like that Saturn is in retrograde in on the day that you're born. I'm like, what is Saturn? So I search it up on TikTok. I'm like, what does Saturn in retrograde in your chart mean? So I'm like, okay, I already know it was, but just for shits and giggles, let me Google it. Yeah, Saturn was in retrograde on the day that I was born. Yeah. This is why I say to people, because you never know what people's birth chart is, there are very powerful spiritual beings walking around here who do not know their power, who do not know who they are from a spiritual perspective. I know more about myself from a spiritual perspective than a natural perspective. That's why I'm still having to learn and understand birth charts and placements and all of that because everything that I know is from downloading or channeling the information. As a matter of fact, the description of having Saturn in your 11th house is what I described in my live yesterday. I channeled the information. I don't know any of this. I actually low key channeled the information of having Saturn in retrograde because I talked about in my live that basically when I was describing like people doing spell work on someone, and I said that this particular person that I was talking about, the way that that person, that spiritualist was set up, and clearly I was reading my own energy, but I was saying that the way that this spiritualist was set up, these people would actually have to come to this person and apologize and take accountability for everything they did. And I was like, they're not going to do that because of, their ego. Bruh. And then I also said that the type of karma that comes along with the way this individual that they did dirty set up is being locked up in your head. And that's the worst kind of karma because when you're locked up in your head and it's like you're the one creating everything in your life based on your thoughts, when you're the one making all of these decisions based on your thoughts and it's just creating all kinds of havoc, then you have that grief now behind the shit that you did to yourself. So it's like when all of this shit is happening within your head, there's nobody external that you can blame. No one. So having to live in a state of regret over and over and over again based on the shit that you put in motion, and then all that, and then having to be locked up in your head about all of that. And then on top of that, when you mess with, like the homegirl was saying, when you mess with somebody with Saturn in the 11th house, like that affects your money. Because, like, she was also saying that for Tauruses, we're very abundant. So we're very protected, very abundant. So when you mess with somebody like that and do them wrong, and they just back away, because literally we won't even have to have a conversation with you. If we have a conversation with you about the situation, it's because we really love and care about you, and we just trying to give you a little bit of closure. But Tauruses will just, like, no discussion, no argument, no nothing, just be out. And this is what I'm saying. When we remove ourselves from someone, we remove all of our protection, we remove all of our abundance. So that basically means that this person's abundance and protection is now affected. And in my live yesterday, I was talking about how these people that were doing spell work on this divine being, their spirit team, their ancestors, all them, like, nah, you on your own, homie. You on your own. Yo, I be tripping at my own abilities. But y'all keep sleeping though. Night night. And I was saying the other day, this is pretty much the worst kind of karma you can experience. To be locked up in your head 24/7 and you still have to exist in a vessel. Like, I can't even imagine what that would look like. Spirit said, excuse me, it's gonna look like this. Spirit said, an unalive man walking. I'm hearing the Grim Reaper on your back. Man, I don't even know, like, from a spiritual perspective, what the Grim Reaper would look like. But I can imagine it could be. I feel like they're saying it's involving segment. And I'm hearing, like, constant spiritual upheaval, constant nervous system upheaval. So, like, it would be like, so if you know of people who might get hives occasionally or have anxiety attacks occasionally or panic attack occasionally, like, we're talking about not only, I mean, being locked up in your head is connected to all of that anyway. So, like, whatever thoughts that will be plaguing you is going to create like that energy within the body. So when you talk about like what,
don't mess with anyone that has a Saturn retrograde in their birth chart. And I'm being so serious right now. The karmic consequences of messing with someone that has a Saturn retrograde in astrology is terrifying. Because think about it this way, right? Saturn is the planet of karma. And when Saturn is not retrograde in someone's birth chart, a lot of times your enemies will often deal with consequences that come from external factors, right? So they might, for example, go through relationship problems because their partner starts giving them issues. Or they might start dealing with problems at work because their boss is giving them trouble. But when you have a Saturn retrograde, when your enemies mess with you, they become their own worst enemy. Because all of that karmic energy is now being internalized. So they end up self-sabotaging, making terrible life decisions, and they end up doing things that set them back in life. And the craziest thing about having a Saturn retrograde is that when your enemies don't learn from their mistakes, Saturn is going to keep testing them over and over and over again. They're not going to get off the hook very easily. So I'm telling you, do not mess with anyone that has a Saturn retrograde.